You know, I never thought this day would come. A day where Well of Radiance hasn't just completely dominated everything until the end of time. So, with the Well of Radiance nerf in final shape, Warlocks can finally use other things and then broaden out their potential. And in this case, we're going to talk about a build where you can use threadlings to become a DPS monster. Now, threadlings, by far and away, were always the best on Warlock specifically, and much worse on the other two classes, at least in my opinion. And they were a good gimmick build to use for ad clear content, like let's say Onslaught. You could utilize them very well there. But in DPS terms, not really. Until now. With the raid coming out in final shape, Salvation's Edge, we got a shiny new toy in the raid exotic Euphony. This exotic feeds on your threadlings and makes you a DPS king. For those unaware, Euphony has a perk called Spindle that states threadling damage increases this weapon's damage, and its intrinsic trait says dealing sustained damage with this weapon also spawns threadlings at your target's location. It's also important to keep in mind that this is a special slot 3-burst linear. That is already rare on its own, but the fact that this can be just a special slot weapon and do massive amounts of damage to the point where you can keep up with most heavies is pretty bonkers on its own. And of course, you can also put this into your DPS rotations where you start off with this, then switch to a heavy such as Cataphract and just do tons of damage with that, then go back to this linear for your final stand or any extended damage phase and just pop off with even more damage. Take this next clip for example. This is going to be 2 people utilizing the Euphony combo through threadlings and then taking on Ekthar, the first boss of Ghosts of the Deep in that dungeon, who has well over 10 million health and still were able to one-face just utilizing the Euphony combo. So, based on that, you're probably asking, what did you mean by the Euphony combo? Well, as the gun states, you can utilize your threadlings to do more damage with the weapon. So our goal for this build is to build up as many stacks as fast as possible utilizing threadlings. The maximum you can get is 25. So the faster we can get to 25, the better our damage will be in a damage phase versus a boss. This is where our exotic armor and our build comes into play. For the exotic armor piece, we're going to be wearing Apotheosis' Veil. For those that don't know what this does, after you pop your super, temporarily gain increased melee and grenade regen. Basically, this is Sunbracers on crack, and you'll be able to throw your grenade every other second once your super is popped with Needlestorm. Now, I mentioned our grenade there because that is going to be the main source of us getting threadlings out outside of just popping our super. In your build, you're going to rock Threadling Grenade. So every time you throw a Threadling Grenade, you gain more and more stacks on whatever enemy you threw it at for your Euphony and the Spindle perk. Essentially, your combo starter is going to be throw your Threadling Grenade at the boss, pop your Needlestorm super, which will do damage, plus make you more Threadlings. Then it'll also activate Apotheosis' Veil, which will then let you throw more grenades. At this point, you can throw as many nades as you want within the timer of Apotheosis. Personally, I like going the route of throw one nade, shoot the boss with my Euphony, throw another nade, shoot again, and then throw a third nade, and then keep shooting with Euphony. Once my Euphony runs out of ammo, I have one more grenade to throw, but in this situation, it's going to do 2 things. That second thing is going to be tied into our fragments, which is going to be our first fragment, Thread of Ascent. Activating your grenade ability, reloads your equipped weapon, and gains bonus blah blah blah. We don't care about airborne effectiveness. So, in this scenario, you popped off, threw 3 grenades, kept shooting your linear this entire time, you ran out of ammo in your linear, then you throw your 4th grenade, and Thread of Ascent activates, reloading another 6 shots into Euphony, and then making even more threadlings if you're not already at 25 stacks. And then you just simply keep shooting your linear until you run out of ammo, and you just do massive damage holding your shoot button. There's no crazy swaps needed, there's no bait and switch swapping, there's no loadout swapping in the middle of the damage phase. You simply just shoot your gun and do a ton of damage. And again, we need to stress that this is just a special slot weapon. The fact that it can do this much damage in the special slot and still give you the opportunity to then use your heavy to do even more crazy damage is pretty ridiculous. And don't get the wrong idea, I'm not saying this is going to be the top of the charts and suddenly replace everything in the game. There's still going to be the weapon swapping meta and things like edge transit, cataphract, rocket swapping, etc. That's going to be the king of DPS, essentially, but this is a great option for your special slot specifically. And the other question you might have is, what about other characters? It's great on Warlock, but what about Titan and Hunter? The short answer is going to be, you can still use it on those other classes and build up stacks of threadlings just through the weapon alone, and one grenade of threadlings maybe, but it's not going to be as good as Warlocks just because Warlocks have Needle Storm and Apotheosis' Veil to utilize for threadlings. Anyway, let's get into the rest of the build with the mods and the fragments. So, the first fragment I mentioned is Thread of Ascent for activating your grenade to reload your weapon. The other fragments are going to be Thread of Evolution, threadlings travel further and deal additional damage. Thread of Generation, dealing damage, generates grenade energy. And then finally, Thread of Warding, picking up an Orb of Power, grants Woven Mail. Technically speaking, this is not mandatory and you can replace this one with something else, but this is what I went with personally. And as for mods, starting at the top as usual with the helmet, we have 3 mods here. The first one is going to be Heavy Ammo Finder, pretty self-explanatory. The second mod is going to be Arc Siphon specifically for me because my middle slot weapon is Nation of Beasts in this case, and I make orbs off of that, but you can change this to whatever you want to use in your middle slot personally. And in the third slot, I have Harmonic Siphon because my top slot weapon, Euphony, and my heavy slot, in this case, is Cataphract. Both are strand, so I might as well put this on in the event that I use those to make more orbs. For your gloves, there are 3 mods. The first one is Heavy-Handed. Your powered melee final blows create an Orb of Power. The second mod is Impact Induction, causing damage with your powered melee attack, reduces your grenade cooldown. So just getting back to your threadling grenade faster. And the last mod is going to be Harmonic Loader. In this case, it's to reload our strand weapons, which is Euphony. For your chest, we're just going to skip that because it's always going to be either resist mods to resist damage or reserve mods for your weapons to get more ammo. In your boots, pretty straightforward, 3 copies of Strand Weapon Surge to increase the damage of your Euphony and your heavy slot potentially. And then in your final slot, we have 3 mods. The first one is going to be a copy of Bomber, reduce your grenade cooldown when using your class ability. The second one is going to be Powerful Attraction to collect orbs whenever you rift, just to have your armor charges up. And the last slot is going to be Distribution to reduce all ability cooldowns when using your class ability near targets. I also want to make one honorable mention for the class item slot here for a mod. That's going to be Special Finisher. Depending on the content you're doing, let's say, for example, Grandmasters, you might be running out of ammo all the time, and with Special Finisher, you can just feed more ammo into your Euphony and never run out, since you're going to be using Euphony in this build quite a bit. And that is it. That's the build. I think the hardest part about crafting this build is going to be just getting the Raid Exotic from the Witness itself. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward and user-friendly to basically everybody. And the funny thing is, it can become a little more nuts if you go and farm out for an exotic class item and get Apotheosis' Veil plus Star Eaters in the class item slot to do more damage with your Needle Storm to start your chain. Anyway, as always, I'll have the dim link for this build down in the description below, and for anybody that wants to try it out, I wish you luck in getting Euphony from the Salvation's Edge raid. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing today. It does help the channel grow and is much appreciated on the way to 40k. And if you want to go the extra mile, you could leave a like and or comment below as well. If you don't know what to comment, you can simply leave Euphony as the comment. Oh, and also there's social links in the description below as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.